to check a bag or not to check a bag? It's a debate that has raged for as long as people have been flying, and it's been a big topic these days with airlines like Southwest doing away with two free checked bags. Let's dive into how to decide whether or not to check a bag. You probably think, well, it depends on the trip length. I'm going to tell you right now, it does not. Not even close. I have backpacked through Europe for weeks at a time in a backpack. It's sitting right over here. If I was sitting closer, I could tell you exactly the size of the backpack in liters. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Google Osprey Porter is the smaller version. I've successfully been through Europe backpacking in that. I will say it was during the summer, so that was helpful for packing purposes. On the flip side, I have traveled for weeks at a time in the winter in a carry-on only suitcase, and that suitcase has been all the way down to Antarctica and back twice. So if anybody tells you you can't do a carry-on only in the winter and a carry-on only to Antarctica, I have proven you wrong. I've done it twice. I have witnesses. So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have anything to do with trip length. For me personally, when I'm deciding whether or not to check a bag, it has a lot more to do with logistics. And also, I guess if I'm checking stuff back and I really just want to be lazy. But let's start with a logistics topic. I'm going to use an example of a trip that I have coming up and one that I've also had in the past where it just made sense to check a bag. This is exceptionally rare for me. I very rarely check a bag going to a destination. I'm more likely to check a bag coming back. When I check a bag going somewhere, it all has to do with logistics, and here's why. There have been times when I have gone overseas for weeks at a time, 4 to 6 weeks, and a few of those occasions I have been all over the place. The last time I checked a bag to Europe. I left that bag in Europe. I took the carry-on that I had packed with it, or in this case, actually, I purchased one there, but I've done it that way too, where I've packed carry-on in my check bag. Point is, I took that carry-on with me when I reversed course and flew all the way down to South America to go to Antarctica, and then all the way back to Europe to pick up the bag and fly it back to the United States. And it was all about logistics because I'm going to tell you right now, part of logistics is mobility. And there are times when you just don't want to be lugging a checked size suitcase all over the world. It opens when you're talking about mobility, but my brain just also thought of this. The other part of checking a suitcase everywhere with you is it opens you up to the opportunity for the airlines to lose your bag or leave your bag behind. And there are just times when you don't have the time to deal with that. Like when you're flying South America and then the next day you're jumping on a ship to Antarctica. Yeah, your bag can't really catch up with you in that case. Um, and that would really, really suck. So logistics, for me, that's the huge one. And it is also mobility. Mobility is also a thing. If you're traveling by yourself, especially mobility is hard. Uh, Check suitcases are just large and they're awkward and they can get heavy and it can be a lot to handle by yourself. Especially in Europe, there's not always a lift or an elevator for you to use. And I've been very fortunate that one, I'm capable, but also I've had so many people offer me help carrying my bag, getting it up and down stairs. And it just goes to show you the kindness of people in the world. But all to be said, logistics. I think it's just easy that way. Or it's easy reasons. Check a bag. Another logistical example that I have coming up is I'm going to be in incredibly different climates over the course of one trip. And it just makes sense to take a check bag and leave that check bag with a friend, take my carry-on suitcase inside, and then do the two different trips. So I need winter clothes for the Arctic. Then I'm then going to drop and change with the summer clothes in my check suitcase into my carry-on suitcase to go down to Southern Europe, where I very much do not need to be wearing wool. So Logistics is a huge one. I've talked about it for probably 5 minutes now. It really is the number one reason that I check a bag, and that goes both ways, not only for when I depart on a trip, but if I'm coming home. This last trip that I went on was a perfect example. I did check a bag back. It was not a checked sized bag back. It was a smaller bag, but logistically, it just made sense for me to purchase a small suitcase to put the extra items in that I had purchased, things that people wanted me to bring back for them, and also just to take some of the stress off of my backpack and the carry-on suitcase I already had. I also had a couple items that I was able to purchase that this way that I otherwise would not have been able to bring home as a carry-on or in a carry-on suitcase. I'm talking oversized liquids. I did the Islander bag making experience, and it comes with a small screwdriver that is technically allowed to go on the airplane, but I didn't want to risk it, so that went under the plane. So that's another reason that I will check a bag. It's not always my number one. I really do try to avoid checking a bag at all costs, but there are just times where you may want to pick something up that you can't bring on the plane, and that's totally okay. You either get a check suitcase or you already have a check suitcase and you check it into the plane and it comes home and it's wonderful. There's other times where I have simply decided that I was exhausted and I had a long way to go and I didn't want to deal with carrying a bag. And I've just decided to check it and prayed that it made it home. And that is also a perfectly acceptable reason to take a checked bag. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, you got to do what is best for you. These are just ways that I reason through whether or not I'm going to bring a checked suitcase, and doesn't have to be a checked size suitcase, but if I'm going to check a bag or not, and you're going to do what's best for you at the end of the day. It's totally fine. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's been a little bit insightful on the different ways to decide whether or not to check one. And yeah, it's personal preference. Again, I hope it was helpful. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. You can tell me in the comments. I'm trying to think if there's any last little tidbits I have to tie up on how to choose or why maybe you would choose. I think, a big one to look at is how much do you really want to risk losing a bag? Europe, especially the Netherlands, Amsterdam airport, notorious for losing bags being left behind, and I don't think it's worth the risk, to be frankly honest. That might just be me. I like to avoid headaches wherever possible, and when you lose a bag, it's or bag is left behind is a huge logistical nightmare, especially when you're overseas, trying to locate the bag, get the bag to catch up to you, get the bag to be delivered to you. I've seen news articles of horror stories of bags that were broken into and things were stolen by the delivery service, not anybody at the airport or the airline. And to me, that's just not worth the risk. So that's certainly another thing that I think about. And when I decide whether or not to check one, and it's why most of the time if I check a bag, I'm checking it on the way home because I'm like, if it gets lost, if it gets left in Europe, for example, it's not a big deal. I'm heading home. I have clothes and I'm gonna be staying in one place. My bag doesn't have to try to catch up to me in multiple locations. So, um, yeah, that's the last of it. I'll jump down off my soapbox about not wanting to lose bags, and I'm gonna let you guys go and so you guys can watch the next one, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.